You'll see a number of interviews that have been conducted regarding businesses who are members of our organization, and interviews with several. And it will keep you informed as to what's going on in the chamber. So I encourage you to go to the Herald News website on a regular basis and check out the Joliet Chamber tab and keep up with what's going on. It's a great partnership, and we want you to certainly be aware of it and use it. Now back to today. We are privileged to have speaking to us today State Senator Pat McGuire and State Representative Larry Walsh, Jr. I'm going to introduce Senator McGuire first, and he will be our first speaker, then I'll come back up and introduce Representative Walsh a little later. State Senator Pat McGuire has dedicated his life to serving the people of Will County in a number of forums. He is a teacher by training, taught English in public and Catholic high schools for over a decade. During that time, he was elected to the Joliet Township District, High School District 204 Board of Education, where he subbed approval of tighter graduation requirements for the youth of Joliet and the surrounding areas. Elwood and Shorewood also are part of that district. His school board experience with property taxes moved him to run for Will County Treasurer. In 2006, he was elected, and as treasurer, he streamlined the office, reduced staff and budget, and assisted thousands of Will County homeowners who had tax problems or concerns. He also served as the city clerk of Braidwood. So he has a breadth of experience at both the county and the municipal levels. Pat grew up in Joliet, the oldest of 6 children, educated at Joliet's Catholic high schools from first grade through college. He is married to Laura, who is a nationally recognized pain control expert, also deeply involved in community leadership. He uses his experience as a school board member, as a Will County treasurer, and as a city clerk to increase honesty and efficiency in Illinois government. Pat believes that taxpayers deserve results from a government that works hard and budgets as tightly as we do in our families, and assures us that he will continue to strengthen the state's efforts to attract jobs and to invest in Will County. Pat's topic today is tough choices. Senator McGuire.
Thank you for that gracious introduction, Russ. And thanks to the Chamber Board, Chamber staff for inviting me to participate in today's program with my colleague, Representative Larry Walsh, Jr. I'm glad to see so many of my fellow elected officials here and all of you. Russ mentioned tough choices, and indeed that's what we face down in Springfield. You know, I know we have people with different political stripes gathered here today. We have Republicans, we have Democrats, you all know my wife Laura, right? We have independents, but I think we all have a common desire, truly, and that's to live in a state that works, right? Not a state that's a laughing stock, but a state that works, a state where people have jobs, where everyone who wishes to work is able to work, secure jobs with fair pay and fair benefits that'll help rebuild our middle class. And we want to work in a state whose government works, right? It's efficient, it's smart, and it's free of waste and fraud and corruption. So those have been my goals down in Springfield as I've served as 43rd District State Senator for the last 4 months. And I want to touch on 3 issues, 3 areas which have been huge obstacles to the state of Illinois working the way it should. And I want to describe them to you in chronological order, in the order in which they came before us in Springfield this past session. Medicaid, pensions, and the budget. My first day as state senator was Monday, February 27th. It was just a couple days after that when Senate President John Cullerton called a meeting of the full Democratic caucus and he brought in Julie Hamus, the head of the Illinois Department of Healthcare and Family Services, and she gave us a 90-minute presentation, gave with PowerPoint and handout on Medicaid, so we knew how Medicaid worked. This was a former student council president's dream. You know, I'm sitting in the Democratic caucus in the state capitol, learning about Illinois' Medicaid program. And we then had 5 or 6 weeks to digest the information that the administration gave us, to hear from other stakeholders, such as my predecessor, A.J. Wyoming, who of course now represents the Illinois Hospital Association. We met in sub-caucuses. I'm a member of the downstate caucus and the suburban caucus. We met with administration officials. We met with stakeholders, tried to settle on some reasonable numbers. And we wound up passing a Medicaid reform package, which goes by the acronym SMART. I have no idea what the SMART stands for. The SMART Act. A package of 5 bills which makes $2.7 billion in changes in the Illinois Medicaid program. And this was absolutely necessary because, of course, the biggest holes in the state's financial bucket are caused by Medicaid and caused by pensions. And so the savings which we should achieve under the Medicaid Reform Act, $1.6 billion. $1.6 billion. The package totaled 2.7 because it's another because of cigarette tax increase, increased assessments on hospitals, and some other changes. So all total, $2.7 billion, which $1.6 million will be savings for the state of Illinois. And one reason the state got so deep in the red regarding Medicaid was that we provided many optional services, optional meaning not required by the federal government. And so we looked at common sense changes, and again, because of the time that we were afforded to debate and develop this legislation, I was able to keep in touch with local stakeholders, local providers, and find out if the changes we're making were reasonable. Here's an example of one of the changes. Under our old optional service regarding eye care, a Medicaid recipient could get a new pair of glasses once a year. Now it's once every 2 years. Under the old optional services, services provided by podiatrists, if I pronounce that correctly, were paid for by Medicaid, now only for people with diabetes. So those are the kind of changes we made. We were careful, we tried to be humane, and I think we're going to reach that target of $1.6 billion in savings. So again, we had ample information, ample opportunities to talk to the governor's people, talk to the hospital association's people, work together with Democrats and Republicans in both chambers. Not so when it came to pensions. You know, the other big hole in the state's budget, of course, is our public employee pensions for K through 12 public school teachers, for state employees such as at Stateville and IYC Joliet, and for state university and community college staff. There were talks going on at the governor's mansion throughout the month of May on pensions. There was a 4-member legislative group, a Democrat and a Republican from each chamber. There were representatives of the governor's office. There were representatives of the public employee unions, the Illinois Education Association, Illinois Federation of Teachers, AFSCME, American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. And I was trying to pick up any information I could get. One night I was in Saputo's, a familiar Italian restaurant in Springfield that's familiar to many of you. And I saw some of the union lobbyists leaving the back room, and I got up and accosted them and asked them what was going on in those talks at the mansion, because we weren't getting the full story. We weren't getting ample information like we did on Medicaid. And I sensed that this framework was being developed, that these were 3 components of a possible pension reform act. That the retirement age would be increased from 55 to 62, that employees would contribute 2% more from their paycheck, and that the 3% compounded COLA, which those retirees now enjoy, would be applied only to maybe the first 20, 40, 60,000 retirement income. So I was keeping in touch with people here, friends of mine who were active in teachers' unions and public employee unions. They were breaking the news to their membership, seeing what they would accept, and it sounded promising. Until Tuesday, May 29th, 2 days before the end of the session, when the Speaker introduced a 229-page pension bill. This was with 48 hours to go in the session, I understand. He introduced a 229-page bill, which didn't contain any of those 3 components. I see some head shaking in disbelief. It must be new to Illinois. It didn't raise the retirement age, it didn't increase the employee contribution, it didn't cap the COLA, apply it to only a certain amount of one's retirement income. Instead, what it did is it proposed that every active employee in those pension plans I mentioned, and every retiree, that was a Rubicon for us, would perform what the bill calls an election, be forced to make a choice. Either hold on to that 3% compounded COLA, or hold on to your state health insurance, but you can't have both. And that's the only pension reform proposal which is in bill form. The other one with the components, retirement age, increased employee contribution, applying the COLA at only a certain amount of one's retirement income, that never made it into bill form. That was all talk. And I'm not at a high enough level. I mean, you're looking at the rookiest rookie in the Illinois Senate. There's 59 of us. I'm 59th in seniority. I don't know if those talks were sincere, insincere, a charade. I don't know. So on Tuesday, the Speaker introduced this 229-page bill, which we tried to read, tried to understand. And then on Thursday, the last day of session, then on Wednesday, of course, there was some showbiz in the House, right? The Speaker handed the bill to Minority Leader Tom Cross. Mike Boss threw his papers up in the air. Once again, Illinois was on the Comedy Channel. Well, and so the Senate gave up, the House rather, seemed to cease its deliberations on pension reform on Wednesday, but in the Senate we pressed ahead. And my leader, Senate President John Cullerton, divided Mannion's bill up into 3 parts, what I call triplets. And to each of them, he attached GARS, the General Assembly Retirement System, to show shared sacrifice. So there's a SERS, State Employees Bill, with GARS attached to it. There's an SURS bill, State University Employees with General Assembly members' pension attached to it. And then there's TRS, K-12 public school teachers with General Assembly retirement system attached to it. We only voted on the one regarding state employees because that doesn't involve the highly controversial pension shift to local districts. In plain English, it would have taken Republican votes to pass it, to pass any bill with a pension shift where the employer's share would be shifted to local school districts and no longer be paid by the state. So apparently President Cullerton knew we couldn't pass that one. So the only one that he brought forth was Senate Bill 1447, which, again, requires the state employees to make that choice. Hold on to the 3% compounded COLA or hold on to your state health insurance and accept a reduced COLA, which is 3% annual simple interest, or half the CPI, whichever is lower. So I voted for that. A week prior, I voted for Senate Bill 1313, which for the first time requires state employees to pay towards their health insurance. And the reason I did that is because I got assurance from the sponsors it would be negotiated and it would be a graduated rate. Because as I said, former governors, those who aren't getting free health care from the federal prison system, I think they can afford to pay. Maybe not the retired janitor from Stateville, but the retired governor. So we adopted that. Governor Quinn signed that into law. So now retired state employees in 7 different categories will pay towards their health insurance for the first time. And we also voted for a bill which would require a 3/5 majority for any pension enhancement. So those were the 3 opportunities to vote on pension reform, and I seized all, well, I can't say I seized all 3 opportunities. I voted yes on all those, and so if you see bruises, cuts on me, those have been inflicted by the public employee unions in the 43rd District. But as we were talking at our table, a change has to come regarding pensions. I mean, the present system is unsustainable. And it's true that people did pay into the system. Public school teachers, university employees, community college employees, state employees, they held up their revenue. That's undeniable. It's also undeniable that legislators and governors skipped payment. And as I said, perhaps unguardedly to an audience, hang them if you want, but what's the solution? We've got to find a solution, otherwise the system's going to collapse. So, of course, when the session ended at 1:20 a.m. on June 1st, I don't think you want bleary-eyed legislators voting on your laws at 1:20 in the morning after a 13-hour day. That's when the session ended at 1:20 in the morning on June 1st, 2012. The governor was brooding about the possibility that he would call us back for a special session this summer for pension reform. And with every day, that becomes less likely. And what I hear now is that if we vote on pension reform that will be during the veto session. We go back the week after Thanksgiving, November 27th, for 6 days of veto session. And in Illinois' grand tradition, that might be when we're presented with pension reform bills and have an opportunity to vote on them. There'll probably be at least 20 lame ducks in the Senate alone. So, with only their consciences to guide them. Regarding the budget, we did something unprecedented. Well, I don't know if it's unprecedented, but it's something that hadn't happened in recent years. We actually passed a balanced budget. And I remember there have been many things in the Senate I've experienced which have cheered me, and here's one of them. Dan Katowski, one of the Senate Democrat budget leaders, I remember the day he got out, this might have been my first week there, and he said, I propose that we adopt a revenue figure of $33.7 billion. And then I saw Senate Minority Leader Chris Redonio stand up to speak, and I think it was a Democratic staffer who kind of nudged me and said, oh boy, here we go. Well, guess what? Minority Leader Redonio got up and said, I agree, that's a realistic figure, let's work together and adopt a budget that doesn't exceed $33.7 billion. And we did work together in both chambers in a bipartisan manner, and we adopted a budget that's balanced, that makes a full pension payment for this year, which is $5.1 billion, a full billion more than last year, which spends $1.3 billion to pay our backlog of unpaid bills, which is about a quarter of the unpaid bills that we have, and doesn't include any accounting tricks. Now that bipartisanship which so cheered me at the beginning of the process, it waned during the last couple of days. I mean, there are genuine philosophical differences between Democrats and Republicans on how to tax, right? And those became apparent in the last 48 hours of the session. And I very much enjoy my colleagues. Yet I did know that that's when the Chicago TV crews came down. They only come down for the last 2 or 3 days because they know the circus is in town, right? And while the cameras were rolling, it appeared to me that some of my colleagues were perhaps auditioning for their gubernatorial campaigns in 2014. But we adopted that budget. So Medicaid, I'd give us a better than passing grade. The budget, I'd give us a better than passing grade. Pensions, obviously, an incomplete. And so, I'm motivated to do well, to serve you well in the General Assembly for numerous reasons. I want to tell you one that I just can't shake. A guy I grew up with in Joliet on Oneida Street, a kid I used to play with on Oneida Street, recently told me that he gave this advice to his son who was about to graduate from college. Here's what he told his son: leave Illinois. He said, if you want a bright future, leave Illinois. I mean, I can't buy that, I mean, I don't want to throw in the towel on the land of Lincoln. So I trust that if we work together and we work hard, we'll create a new Illinois. And we'll have a state, not one that we tell our kids to leave, but a state whose best days are still ahead of us. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Senator. We'll have some time for questions at the end of, after both presentations have been made. So now it's my pleasure to introduce State Representative Larry Walsh, Jr., who's serving the 86th District since May of this year, appointed to replace long-serving State Rep. Jack McGuire. Now, Larry's a lifelong resident of Elwood. He's married to Teresa. He has 3 children, graduated from Elwood High School, Providence Catholic High School, and attended Joliet Junior College. He's been an employee of Caterpillar in Joliet, a member of the IAM Local 851 for 18 years. He worked his way up through the union, where he was chairman of the union's negotiation committee, before taking a full-time position as secretary-treasurer of IAM's District Lodge 8. In this position, he oversaw $5 million in annual revenues and managed all the finances of the lodge, running a balanced budget each year while expanding its surplus. In addition to his involvement in township government through participating and organizing holiday food drives and delivering gifts during the holiday season. He also is a very proud supporter of area community groups such as Jackson Highlighters, the Elder History Club, and the Meals on Wheels program. Please welcome State Representative Larry Walsh, Jr.
Thank you, Russ, for that kind introduction. I want to thank the Chamber, its board members, and all of you in attendance today for coming to hear what we have to say as far as the state of Illinois. Senator McGuire did a fine job explaining our General Assembly process over its last month of session here in May. I was fortunate enough to be appointed on April 30th. May 1st, I go down to Springfield and welcome to the real world. I was thrown into a firestorm. As everybody here knows, the state of Illinois is broke, the red tape is this high, and we've got a problem to fix. When I put my name in the hat to be appointed to this position, and I was calling some of my colleagues within the labor movement and other folks, one gentleman asked me right off the get-go, do you need a psychiatric exam? And I kind of took a step back and says, why would you say that? He says, all these legislators are getting out and you're wanting to get in. Why? And I thought about that. We are here today over 40 years of legislation and a process within the state of Illinois that got us to where we are today. Some people think we're going to get out of it overnight. There's no way that can happen. It's not possible. So when I put my name into that hat to be considered to be the next state representative for the 86th District, I went down there with the goal of being part of the solution instead of part of the problem. And with that, we've had some tough votes to make. My colleague, Senator McGuire, explained them pretty much in full force. SB 1313 was a state insurance health plan for retirees for the state of Illinois. All sectors, state employees, university employees, guards, General Assembly, judges. These folks never paid insurance premiums if they had 20 years of service with the state. It's a nice benefit. They were promised that. Don't disagree with that. But the fact of the matter is that $880 million a year for this year alone, projected $960 million for fiscal 14, it's unsustainable. It is unsustainable. We needed to take action to start fixing our financial house. That was the very first tough vote I had. I don't have any fingernails left. Because I'm telling you, as Pat got beat up, I got beat up. I come out of the House of Labor. Believe me, my brothers and sisters in labor were not happy with me. But those are the tough decisions that I put my name in to do. So with that being said, we have a three-tier program going on right now with the state of Illinois. We have Medicaid, as Senator McGuire expounded on. We had our pension issue. As he was stating, the House was a little different than the Senate. We combined them all together. And that bill that came down on Tuesday morning, I was in talks with our school districts, District 204, District 86, Shanahan, Rockdale, Union School, Elwood School, to see where that cost shift would put them. It's a serious issue, very serious issue, because we pay property taxes, every one of us here. And with that burden being put back on the school districts all at one time, how would they handle it? And I got the feedback from those folks that over the course of time, if it was put in at a graduated pace, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, to assume that cost, it could be done. There's an option there that is probably going to rear its head in the veto session. But as of May 31st, it wasn't an option. So we put those plans together. It fell apart. The game started in the House, and it was heard that the Chicago TV cameras came down. They were staying at our hotel. And, with him up there, the show started. The bill got tossed to the other side of the aisle. The support waned, and the House did not act on any pension reform at all. And we're in kind of contact here if they're going to call a special session. We were on a press conference call yesterday regarding the closures of the Illinois facilities under DOC and DJJ. There's certain groups out there and legislators and colleagues of ours on both sides of the aisle in both chambers that are calling for a special session to amend the vetoes or override the vetoes that the governor put in the budget. We'll see what happens. I don't expect us to be down there until November 27th, to tell you the truth. But with that being said, the pension issue was not resolved. I'm not satisfied with that. I am looking forward to getting back to work on that issue. I think we have some serious proponents of that bill that we can really address. The cost of living adjustment is one. The health care issue is another one. So, and the cost shift is the third one. Can be really looked at, and if it's done in a fair and equitable manner, can be accomplished. The cost of living alone in the pension system is $30 billion to $60 billion of the unfunded liability. That's how much the actuarials put on that cost of living that each retiree receives. If there's some way to adjust that, we've got some major savings in that alone without touching the Constitution. So, getting on to Medicaid, we made some severe cuts throughout the program. The big cost savings was member eligibility. The Illinois Hospital Association is taking on the responsibility of verifying eligibility for every person enrolled in Medicaid today. From my understanding, they're going to be sending out enrollment forms. If those forms aren't filed, they're going to lose their Medicaid eligibility. In the talks that went on for the month that I was there and the research that I did, the state claimed right from the beginning it'd save about $125 million. The Hospital Association had it at $650 million. They come to an agreement that it's going to save us $350 million in Medicaid costs, which is a huge factor. To figure that we've got 350 million people, or $350 million that we're paying out of our budget as a state government to people that don't qualify for Medicaid. So we addressed that situation. And I'll be watching to see how that transpires over the course of the next 6 months and into the next General Assembly. The other thing that we lost that affects my district very heavily is Illinois Cares RX. This program is for low-income seniors to receive prescription benefits. The amount of seniors that we help in my constituent office are quite high, and this affects them in a deep manner. Prescription drugs are expensive, very expensive, and many can't afford them without the program in place. So when we found out that that was going to be cut, the governor signed off on it before sometime in the middle of June. July 1st started the termination of that program, and my office has been diligently working for avenues to help our seniors that need that program. We've referred them to AARP as a prescription program that works very well. We are now in the process of getting in touch with SHIP, which is it's a federal government program, and I can't think of what it stands for, but we've got the paperwork, and we're working towards finding those folks a solution, because that's what I am here to do, is to help the constituents of the 6th District. Now, outside of that, we've got the IOIC closure that's been hitting the news here recently. I got down there. It was proposed to close IOIC. The governor put down a chopping block. Kafka hearing was here at the Renaissance Center. We had strong support from the community, from the chamber, from the city of Joliet, from the county of Will. Throughout the whole area, we had strong support to keep our facility open. This facility houses some bad kids, to put it like you know, we've got, some say the worst of the worst, but it's the only maximum security facility. And the programs that the employees and the DJJ have put into place there help these kids. They keep them in touch with basically how to get their life straightened out. And they take great pride in what they do there. So I went down to Springfield when this closure came about, and Coffer came through with a ruling and ruled in favor of not closing the facility. I went to work directly with the Public Safety Appropriations. Spent the year of Chairman Louis Arroyo, went all the way up to Speaker Maddox to try to get the funding into that facility. Through diligent work with my colleague Senator McGuire, my colleague Representative Casey, and a whole slew of downstate Democrats that were losing their facility, we came up with real money, actual money, no accounting tricks. $88 million we got to fund all the facilities in the state to keep DOC safe, our employees of DOC and DJJ safe, and to keep our inmates safe. On June 30th, the governor mandatory vetoed pretty much all the line items dealing with the DOC and the DJJ facilities that he had put down for closure. We have been in discussion with the governor. We are going to continue to be in discussion with the governor to keep those facilities open. We had 260 jobs sitting down there on McDonough Street. We got 780 of my brothers and sisters on strike and capital. We can't afford to have these people out of work. These are people that are going and using the businesses that you guys have. They're out spending money in the community. We need to keep these jobs available. And that's one of the reasons why we've been hard on the governor. Second, it don't make sense. It's not fiscally responsible. Joliet IYC is an up-to-date facility. The capital improvements needed in the long term are only $6 million. The place where they want to move these kids is St. Charles, and they're looking anywhere between $20 and $60 million in capital improvements. That don't make sense to me. Why would we spend money to improve a facility when we already have one in place? Because it's got pretty trees out in front? Come on. So we've been really talking to the governor hard and heavy, his people. We're trying to get him down here to visit the facility. You know, if we can get him down here and look at it, I think he'll really see what it's for and the use and the purpose it serves. With that, it's pretty much been an enjoyment. I have thoroughly enjoyed serving in that Illinois House. It's an honor. I've grown up in a family that's been involved in public service my whole life. So I've been accustomed to what goes on. And I'm telling you, it's to be able to be part of a body of 118, where I represent 120,000 people, is an honor that it's speechless. But I'm proud to do it. I'm looking forward to continuing it. And I'd just like to thank you for listening to me. Thanks.
If there are questions, I think we have a little time. Yes, Mayor?
Without a supplemental budget, so we have to make a supplemental appropriation and veto session to move that money to another allocation. It's locked in the DJJ rules.
Anybody else? Yes.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, the status on the mental health facility in Henry Park.
The status that Governor Quinn announced that is due for closure also.
I have a statement that I read. I'd like to know how much they were going to ask us to pay for our health insurance.
How much will be asked the state retirees to pay for health insurance?
The last word I have is that that's still being negotiated. In the most recent newsletter of the State Retired Employees Association, there's a page that mentions, and I think I might have touched on this in my remarks, 7 pay grades, 7 pay scales, and that the amount that you will be required to pay will be along that same line, along those 7 categories.
All right, yes, over here, Joe.
The sale of the federal prison out there in Thompson.
Yes.
That money goes to the state and will that help the budget at all?
The sale of the Thompson prison, will that money go to the state? I don't think it's been sold. I could be wrong. I don't think that ever materialized.
I don't think that's been sold. And last week, Governor Quinn proposed selling TAMS, the Supermax prison, far downstate to the feds. Excuse me? Right, and I don't think the feds have made an offer. Right.
Yes, here again.
Since the Medicaid payments to nursing homes, how are we doing with that?
Medicaid payments to nursing homes, yes.
Well, the understanding I got that the funding was still level for the reimbursements dealing with nursing homes. Now, as far as the reimbursements going back to nursing homes, that stayed as the status quo. Because that was one of the big issues with Medicaid.
So, how are we going to get this money?
That's another story. That's enough, but according to the bill that was put forth, funding levels for nursing homes, they did not take the hit that the hospitals or the doctors took as far as reimbursement rates. The nursing homes stayed equivalent to where they were.
But are they going to send the checks pretty soon?
That's the public control.
Yeah, no, we will call the comptroller's office for you, because I met with Carol Shawburns and some of your colleagues, and we worked on this. Yeah, it really hit me in the face, the human problems that the state's financial woes cause when I had an appointment at the Child Care Resource and Referral Center on Larkin Avenue, and being green, I thought that I would meet, maybe the top 2 or 3 staff members. No, I was ushered into a conference room where there were about 20 child care providers there who told me, this was on a Monday, they said if the state didn't come through with its overdue payments within days, they would have to close their doors the following Friday. They would have to tell parents, you got to take your kid home. The parents would have to take off work, right? And so I got down to Springfield and I started asking questions about this, and I got some vague responses. Well, the leaders are aware of it. I said, what are the leaders going to do? Well, the leaders are going to work out a schedule. Well, what is the schedule? Well, the leaders are aware of it. And so we kept pushing, and we did get a supplemental appropriation passed, which supplied money to CCAP, the Child Care Assistance Program. But it sure writ large to me why we need to solve our state's financial problems. Again, pensions, Medicaid, and a balanced budget, because the toll of trying to dislodge these late payments and calling the comptroller's office on behalf of providers and goading them and goading them and goading them. I mean, think if we could use that energy towards building our state.
I've been to a lot of chamber luncheons. It was almost as quiet as church in here. While our presenters were speaking, and I know that's because you were very interested in listening to what they had to say. We've been very fortunate in our area. We've had great representation for many years. I think of George Sangmeister, I think of Tom Dunn, Larry Walsh, of A.J. Wilhelmi, Jack McGuire. And from what I heard today, I think we are, again, in very capable hands as far as representation of these districts are concerned. So thank you so much, Senator and Representative Walsh. We are adjourned. Thank you for coming.